This is the 2025 September North Seattle Spartan Sprint in Monroe, Washington. This is the second time I've done a Spartan Sprint. The first time was earlier this year with very little practice, and I'm not the most in-shape person, so I feel like if I'm able to do it, most people can. They're very good at hyping you up. In this instance, they're letting us know that a Spartan 5K is quite a bit longer than a regular 5K, and there's obstacles. 19 obstacles to be exact. For some reason, the fire jump wasn't in this one. Out of the 19 that they had this time, I was able to complete 17 of them. I couldn't get up the climbing rope, and I fell off of the multi-rig. But that being said, like I said, I'm not the best at this sort of thing, so me being able to do that much was pretty cool. I purchased a $20 GoPro off of Facebook Marketplace and just sort of wore it until the battery ran out, so you're not going to see the entire race here, unfortunately. But I've edited to show some of the more interesting bits that I got, including as many obstacles as I was able to film. Before you even get to this starting point, unfortunately the camera didn't start in time, they made us crawl under some barbed wire, hop over a fence, and then we sort of listened to some hype-up music, and the guy sent us on our way. It's a very intoxicating race. As soon as you finish it, you're exhausted, but you kind of wanted to sign up for another one, which is actually how we ended up doing this a second time, me and a coworker of mine. A lot of the terrain was rough, and these were not obstacles necessarily, it was just how the course was laid out. In this month in particular was quite a bit dustier than when we did it earlier in the year. Here you see the 4-foot wall. Start you off kind of easy there. A lot more running. If this was just obstacles, I feel like I'd do better. But a lot more running than I'm used to. Then there's some hurdles that you had to get over. No. In addition, this year that they didn't have last year, at least for the sprint, was getting to walk through some water. I know the Super was set up so that you walked through the stream, so it was nice that there was some variety in our leg with the sprint. Here is the monkey bars. Yeah, this is a tough one. I've not had an issue with the monkey bars being particularly slippery. I know some people have. I wore gloves most of the race this time, but I opted to not use them on the multi-rig or the monkey bars, just because I was unfamiliar with them, but they definitely helped with the rope stuff, except the rope climb specifically. Yeah, really. The 6-foot wall is quite a bit more difficult than the 4-foot wall, obviously. There you go, you're good. Friend made it over with no help. Yeah. The nice thing about doing sort of the open leg is that you're free to help other racers that need that assistance or be helped yourself. If you're in a more competitive heat, my understanding is that you're not allowed to accept that sort of help. Which would have been much more difficult this year, especially because the rolling mud was quite a bit more difficult than it was earlier in the year. This was really thick at one point. I was about knee deep in the mud. Last time I ran the race in this type of obstacle, I did lose my shoe. Almost lost it this year, or this race, but didn't. Yeah. So you can see I opted to wear those gloves this time. They're just sort of gardening gloves with some extra grip. I don't know if I'm going to do that again next year or not, but I do feel like it helped, especially in the Hercules hoist, anything that had to do with ropes. It helped my hands, and I was able to maintain a pretty good grip. This is the incline wall. This one is deceptive for me. I think I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, this will be a pretty easy one," and it was a lot harder than I anticipated. Doing the sprint for a second time did help in that I knew what I was getting into with the obstacles. The first time going in blind, I could only assume, and in this instance, it was nice to know what I was getting into. Camera's going to get a little foggy here during rolling mud. But this, like I said, it was much more difficult than the last time we ran this race. I feel like the mud was much more slippery. The hills were steeper. But yeah, it was fun. The previous race that we did, people were able to shimmy up this with very little help. It was, I mean, it's not that it was easy last time, but this time it was definitely much more treacherous. Speaking of it being extra slippery this year, you'll see in a minute that I slide down the other side of this hill. I actually didn't have much trouble with this dunk wall because I slipped right under the water and popped up kind of on the other side, more or less by accident. At this point, the camera had fallen off my head, so I had to readjust and then headed to the slip wall here. This is not the most difficult obstacle for me, but it may be the one that scares me the most, just because when you're at the apex of this triangle, you realize it wouldn't be difficult to slip and fall pretty hard back down. It's the sandbag carry. This is just a tiring one for me. I mean, that's a lot of this, is that you're gonna wear yourself out, and I wish that I had trained more. I didn't train much. I think that I am far better at straight obstacles than I am running. So the mixture of being extremely tired and then adding in some of these strength obstacles as well as the dexterity ones, it was tiring. I mean, my legs cramped up much sooner this time around than it did last time. It started about halfway through, and I was really struggling for portions of it. The barbed wire was quite a bit more difficult, and so you can see here it's uphill, there's a curve, the barbed wire is pretty low. The barbed wire was higher and a straight shot and on even ground last time we did it. And I would say this is probably maybe the most mentally tiring of the obstacles, which I was not expecting at all. This is the vertical cargo net climb, I think they call it, as opposed to the A-frame. Again, not the most difficult obstacle, but at this point in the race we were running pretty close to empty, at least I was.
I'll be way faster if you just drop. Stay muffled too.
Then there was the bucket carry. I think that the bucket weight varied quite a bit. I feel like it was much heavier the last time that I did this. They have two different weight levels for this bucket, the red and the black. The men were supposed to take the black bucket. I did. It seemed lighter than last time. This is just a slight incline, and this is what almost did me in. As I said, the course got pretty dusty at certain points. And this is just a snippet of it here. My GoPro is starting to die, so you don't get to see all of the obstacles or the ending race. The reason there's not 20 obstacles this time is because there wasn't the fire jump, which was pretty strange. I wonder if that has to do with fire restrictions this time of year. This was new for us. I forget what they call this, but just a giant boulder with a handle on it. Kind of similar to the Atlas carry that we had to do at a different point in the race. But again, individually, a lot of these obstacles were not that difficult, but in addition to the running and everything else, it was pretty exhausting. At this point, they canceled this, which was a more treacherous portion of the race, and they said, we're adding a half mile onto the race, so go that way. My GoPro died, but that is the gist of my Spartan Sprint 2025 in Monroe, Washington.